The outside has this really sweet, nice salty, savory flavor. The vinegar doesn't make it sour at all. It just kind of enhances the umami. And there's a nice coat on the outside. The ends are really, really delicious. I gave those to my kids. 1 tablespoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, teaspoon of smoked paprika, teaspoon of thyme. If you like thyme as much as I do, you can put extra in. The teaspoon of onion powder, teaspoon of garlic powder, and lastly some black pepper to taste. That's probably about half a teaspoon of black pepper just grounded in there. I don't like a whole lot of black pepper, just a little bit, but it's up to you, of course. So now we got the dry rub, and this is a good all-purpose steak rub. Mostly salt and sugar with some spices, whatever spice you want. If you only had thyme or you only had rosemary or sage, you just put salt and a little bit of brown sugar or honey or molasses, not molasses, maple syrup, and you put in some spices, that would be fine. And this is a really good steak rub. You can use this on just about any kind of meat or fowl. I'd use something different for fish, but that's just me. Okay, so we're going to rub this on the pork loins, and we're going to add the balsamic vinegar. And I'm not going to use all this on the pork loin. It's a lot. I made extra so I'd have some left over for later. You gotta always, always, always smell your meat. Make sure that there's no, fresh meat shouldn't have that much of a smell. It should smell like meat, but it's not gonna smell strong. So I'm gonna use a spoon to dish out my spice rub. I'm gonna coat the pork loin. Just keep my hand like this so it doesn't go all over the place, right? I'm just gonna be really liberal with it. You don't even have to rub it really, but the reason that I rub it is because I don't want it to be too thick in one place. See this is really thick. There was a little bit on the other piece, and I didn't remove it because it was so little. But there's like a lot of connective tissue, a lot of it's also called silverskin. It's basically fascia on this piece, so I am going to take that off because that can be very tough. You don't have to do this. It'll just be a little bit more convenient to eat if you do. And as you can see, with like a moderately sharp knife, nothing special, it comes right off. Okay. All right, now we're gonna marinate. Now I'm using a glass bowl because I try not to use plastic whenever possible. Take the tenderloin and put it in a glass bowl. And then I'm gonna use a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. Probably like that much for 1 tenderloin. Yeah, that much for 1 tenderloin. And I'm just gonna spread it over 2 tenderloins because I don't want it to be extra sour. And you can see I'm not putting the whole thing in. What I'm really doing is I'm trying to make sure that that the pork is exposed to vinegar, but not soaking and swimming in vinegar. You can see that there's just the smallest amount on the bottom. I'm not taking great care to make sure that that it's like in vinegar all the way around, or that it's all soaking in vinegar. I've got a little bit of vinegar left over, as you can see, but you know, just a little bit of vinegar will enhance the flavor. It'll give it some salt and some sweetness and a little bit of savory flavor. And I don't want it to be like sour. I want it more sweet, more savory, and then sour. So then I'm gonna let this sit for, covered in the fridge for about 3 hours, and then I'm gonna cook it, and it'll be really quick to cook. I would probably serve this like on a weeknight. If I made this on a weeknight, of course, I would have to give it time to marinate. But if I were gonna make this on a weeknight, I would serve it with something really, really fast and easy to make, low maintenance, like steamed rice in a rice cooker, or maybe mac and cheese out of the box, some like good quality organic mac and cheese out of the box. And probably just cut up some romaine lettuce and put some salad dressing on that. So, you know, salad with dressing out of the bottle, marinated pork tenderloin, and some kind of carb that doesn't take much effort to make. And that's a really good weeknight meal. So I'll show you when I'm cooking it, and also when I'm serving it. I'm not even going to cover it. I'm just going to stick it in there and let it chill for like 3 hours. The oven is now at 500 degrees, and we're going to roast it for 20 minutes. The tenderloin has been marinated. I'm going to coat the tenderloin with oil. The type of oil is up to you. I don't like to cook with something that doesn't do well at high heat, so I don't use olive oil generally for cooking. I don't use safflower oil, things that are high in omega-6s. Today I'm using this sunflower oil, which does very well at high heat. Just going to take it out. I'm not going to bother draining it. And I'm using a casserole dish, but you can use anything. Doesn't matter what you use. Throw in the extra liquid inside. Doesn't matter how wet it is on the bottom. We're not braising it. It's not so much liquid that we're going to braise it. Put some oil in my hand and get it on the outside of the tenderloin little at a time. Well, that liquid will evaporate. And with the sugar and the vinegar and the oil, what we'll end up with is a nice, hopefully, a nice crust on the outside. So the difference between a tenderloin, pork tenderloin, and a pork loin is that the tenderloin is a thick muscle, which is like the psoas muscle. And it is, let me see if I can get this right, high in fat and low in connective tissue. So it cooks very quickly. You can just cook it in a skillet. I'm using the oven because it's less work for me. A pork loin, on the other hand, I don't know what part of the pig that comes from, but the pork loin is lower in fat, higher in connective tissue, which makes it much tougher. So you have to cook that at a lower temperature for longer, like for at least an hour, hour and a half, in order to get it tender. It's much more of a roast. Okay, so the pork is ready. It looks beautiful. The pan does not look so good. There wasn't enough oil. If I had oiled the dish beforehand, that wouldn't have happened. That's a lesson for me. But if you check out the pork loin itself, you'll see that it has this nice brown sear on it around the edges. And the next step for the pork loin is to let it sit for a few minutes so that you can reabsorb the juices. So basically what happens is when you cook meat, it expands. Meat tissue expands and it becomes very, very open and porous. The juices start to seep out of it. And if you were to cut it right away, if you were to cut it open right away, all the juice would spill. So this is the pork loin. It looks really pretty damn good, right? It's not burned, that was just the pan. And it's gonna be really, really, really tender and juicy with a very nice, sweet, savory, sourish outer coat. So I'm gonna let that rest for 10 minutes. I decided to just steam some rice and chop up some lettuce. And then that'll be it. I just cut up some lettuce, and I have to say that things around here are pretty chaotic on Sunday night, or at least things move pretty quickly on a Sunday night or any night before school. And in the spirit of being efficient, if this lettuce doesn't look dirty, I might not even wash it. Okay, moment of truth. So you can see that some of the juice has leaked out from the tenderloin, and basically it feels very firm. You can tell by the lack of movement when I pick it up that it's probably closer to the side of well done. Not exactly my preference, but it's what we've got tonight. I'm going to cut this on the bias. See how that is. A little lettuce there. Yeah, pretty good. I would say I'd like it a little bit more medium, but this is pretty good. Let's cut it this way. Yeah. Let's see how we did. Yeah. Flavor is flavors are really strong, really good. Yeah. Flavor is really, really good. I cooked it a little too long. It's not quite dry, it's not tough, but I'd like it to be a little more tender. So, but hopefully with some of the juices, that'll be just fine. And there you go. Or tenderloin. Pretty easy weeknight meal. I hope you're taking care of yourselves and each other. Bye.